Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Fall 2019 capstone presentations. We have 6 students presenting tonight. It is Wednesday, I think, December 4th, and the first you are up next.
Thank you. Share computer sound, okay. Okay, I believe I selected the correct screen. Are you seeing Washington State history?
Yes.
Okay. I have 6 screens here, so I never know which screen I picked. I think I picked the right one. Hi, Matt Meester here, and I want to start off by thanking especially Kristen and Ruth for their diligent motivation of me over the last few years, and as well as many of you on the video tonight are classmates that I've participated in projects with and worked in other classes. I've really enjoyed this journey. It's been a fantastic journey. My project has to do with a situation that happened to my daughter when we moved from the Midwest to the inland Northwest. And that was, she was required to take a, in my particular case, it was Idaho State history, but I now live in Washington State. Washington also requires all graduating students from high school to take a Washington State history course. Now, about 31 other states require this as well. And the problem comes into play when students transfer, they're already in high school and they transfer from one state to another. They're being displaced and they have to take away other classes in order to take that state's history. Most of the states are not offering it online. Washington State wasn't until recently. So that's the project that I came up with, was creating a Washington State history course for online use. It's a streamlined process so that the student can get through it in a 9-week period, pretty much covering a summer, and get their credit that they need in order to graduate from the high school. This particular course, or this is on my website, it's a WordPress website. One thing that came up this December 1st is I had left my position with the school district. I was utilizing their enterprise Google Classroom and my access went away. So the last few days I've recreated as much as I could of my Google Classroom on a WordPress site. You'll see that I am fully social media involved, and I also encourage my students to do so. You'll see here at the bottom that we have a Washington State History Facebook. Those will have individual groups according to the section, so that the instructor doesn't have to share their Facebook, personal Facebook with students. They'll go through this and have a section group that they will Facebook with the students. In order to create collaboration, we're going to be putting it anywhere from 5 to as many as 12 students in a class, and they will work collaboratively and as they go throughout the 9-week process of finishing it. Now, some of those students may get it done within a week. They may just plow right through it and get it done and over with. But for the majority of the students, they'll take their time and get through the material. We also have a Washington State History Twitter and a Washington State History Instagram. And the Instagram and the Twitter are there primarily to encourage students to sort of take their class with them when they're out and about, especially on the Instagram side of things. We're going to be encouraging students to, as they're traveling throughout Washington State and going to different places and things, to post their Instagram posts to our club course. We start off our portal with the just the 2 basic options. That's about us and login, and that's because the student will actually have to get a password and a username from their school district or high school or middle school. They'll go through the process of getting a password and a user ID to log into our online course. So it's pretty simple and it explains it for the parents as well as the students. The parents get more into the theoretical justifications for the course, and the students is a little bit more simple. We'll go ahead and log on here, but this just sort of talks about the history course and what they would. This also works with the courses that are being taught in the 7th and 8th grade in Washington State. As we go to log on here, I'm going to be John Smith, who's a student. And I did send Kristen and Ruth a password for this as well. If you want one, you can ask me and I'll give you a password and a login. The classroom initially was going to be Google Classroom. I ended up creating it entirely in a WordPress site to decrease cognitive load. It's a pretty simple page. It's the class announcements, which are very right there so that the student is aware of what's going on within the class, what they're currently working on, along with a percentage of how much they've completed it, and the completed modules so that they know how far along they are in the class, and a running grade as to what they currently have. Now, because this is student guided, the students are able to jump ahead. This particular student has already taken care of 3 modules that are well ahead of our first module, and they can do that through the class syllabus, where it lists all the modules and their links so that they can take those modules and get credit for them. Back to the classroom, trying to keep things simple on the navigation. Pretty much all our navigation is in this column here or in this row. We have instructor notes that are continuously updated. Now, we do assign a single instructor to the 12-person student classroom. Because it's online, we're able to get our social studies teachers to cooperate with us on helping these students out. Along with it, they get paid like the summer hours and so forth. So you'll see the instructor notes. One of the things that we have is notes on the fly when they're in the module. So they're able to take notes of their own and keep track of their own learning and encourage them to take care of their own learning. A section calendar, and then one thing I've learned a lot this semester by taking 537, ID 537, and a lot of that has to do with universal design for learning and ways of encouraging learning from all aspects of the learning realm or the learner's realm, in engagement, representation, and action and expression. So what you'll see throughout the entire program is that there's ways for students that they may have vision disabilities, they may have different kinds of disabilities in reading or writing, being able to do those things. And I've tried to build in opportunities for those students to be engaged and enjoy the modules as well. I'll do a quick listen here.
Class announcements. December 2nd, 2019. Just a reminder that Unit 1 Section 1 module is due by December 9th.
Were you able to hear that okay? Okay.
Yeah, that guy had a Washington State accent, right?
Yeah. I used an English accent. There's 170 different accents, and I haven't played with them all to figure out which one sounds best, but I don't know. I like listening to the English folks. So you'll see that virtually on every page is a listen to post, and as well as here we'll go to module 1. So yeah, and I think this one I may have used the female.
Washington State Geography.
I'll find the female one. I tried to rotate them up. You'll see on the actual module, the header, it gives in a sense, the assignment, although the assignment's also in the instructor's notes, and those will be emailed to students, Twittered, as well as Facebook's, to let them just remind them to keep it on in their calendar. You'll have the assignment options. In this case, we're using Captivate as our primary, I guess, content information source. And then we also include this is supposed to be a completely virtual reality video. I'll show you a little bit more about that in a moment. And then I have some additional videos that we'll go into as well. But we also outline a little bit about the unit or the module. We identify the locations that they need to pay attention to, as well as words and understanding. Now, in an optimum world, these would have been highlighted by an interactive dictionary where they could have hovered over and a bubble would have popped up. I couldn't quite afford that plugin for WordPress, but it is available, and what would happen is they would hover over this Pacific Ocean, and it would give the definition in a pop-up so that the students could very easily read through, and it could also be spoken to them, the definition, or a brief note about the particular word or location. See, and we still have our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram on every page, so we also encourage discussions. We also provide for the instructor to be able to be chatted with. As we mentioned here, this instructor's got office hours on tomorrow, and they didn't give a time, but the students will be able to chat with either via video or by text chat with their instructor. The discussions will also take place in our Facebook section group, so we'll be encouraging students to collaborate with each other, talk about what they're learning, ask questions, and do those kind of things. Let's go ahead and go into, let's see, go to our Captivate lesson. So one of the things that UDL encourages is making as much accessible and available to the students. A lot of my accessibility comes at the end of my Captivate, and that's in the evaluations. Initially, I was going to only do games for my students as an evaluation rather than a multiple choice question or something like that. They were only going to be given the game option. I learned throughout that class that I was actually reducing their opportunity for learning by quite a bit by bringing only one type of evaluation in. So what I've done, and you'll see it at the end of the Captivate here, is I have the standard option of evaluation. Now these are also spread out throughout the module in a formative manner, but at the very end, in the summative evaluations, I give them 5 options, which includes a multiple choice standardized kind of test. They can also do a type or spoken essay. So if a person's not very good at the typing part, they can speak it in, and it's speech to text recognition, and they can write their essay that way. They can do a bunch of games, not nearly as good as Laura's. I liked her games a lot better than mine. I'll have to work on that one. They can do a bunch of games and be evaluated. They can also do a storyboard, so someone that's better with pictures or images, they can create a storyboard evaluation of the module and turn that in. Or if they really like to play with video and audio, they could create a video or audio for their summative evaluation. So we've given them 5 different options for evaluation, and I've also tried to spread many of these options out throughout my Captivate lesson. That's why I wanted to explain that ahead of time, because we won't go through the entire lesson.
Washington State history.
Washington State, a land of many regions.
Key ideas.
You can turn off the volume. Did you hear the English lady? Okay. For those that don't want to listen to these slides, they can turn it off. We talk about key ideas and key terms. Once again,
Washington is part of several regions.
Washington's 5 regions. Washington can be divided into 5 land regions. Each region has at least one main physical feature but may contain more. These features, also called land.
This narrow region along the Pacific coast includes several. The lowlands make up the plains and the Cascade Mountain range. On the east side of the Cascades is this region in the northern corner.
As you read, the landforms of Washington's 5.
in our videos, we always, this one only has music, so it's, we always include closed caption and those kind of things in order to help those that are not able to hear as well. Here we come to our evaluation methods. They're able to do a game, and this one just happens to be putting the things into the right places kind of thing, which they learned about in the Captivate lesson. Let's try and go through the, whoop, and I'd have to start over. Okay, well, I'm going to go on to the next slide. I messed up my own game. Then we get into multiple choice where they have different options, or the multiple choice standard answer questions, short answers, true and false, and those kind of things. And we come to the end of our lesson. The other assignments that are included were the videos. I'm working with, or trying to work with the, is it not going to let me out? Okay. And I'm trying to work with Washington State University's VR lab, and we weren't able to get it completed in time for this presentation tonight. But this video, I guess I should switch over to YouTube so I can do a larger image for you. I can't remember, maybe it was Michael. Michael, I think you asked me at one point about where I get those interesting intros. I get them from Videos, spelled, I don't know what it's spelled as, video with a Y. And I'm able to make them up however I want to make them up and add my own graphics and stuff. The video, I didn't include it. The video is supposed to be interactive. What would happen is either teachers or students creating some of their summative evaluations may create a video for us that we would then turn into a virtual reality tour of a historic site. This is Fort Vancouver, just outside of Portland, but in the Washington State area. And what the students would be able to do is we would pull up on like that reader board that was there, or that information board, and they would be able to either highlight it or click on it, and it would bring it up in a text or audio format so that they could, in essence, visit this location without having to step out their front door. Because I anticipate many of the students to be quite rural that would be taking these courses, this gives them a chance to go all across the state and tour the Space Needle, tour different places, They would also be able to do 3D artifacts, like clicking on this hat or this bathing setup, and find out more information about it, the eras, that kind of stuff. So you'll see throughout the video that, I mean, there's many opportunities for learning for students to, obviously they can't smell or touch or really feel it, but this will sort of take them outside of their normal setting and give them an opportunity to see the history of Washington State on their through their computer. Let's see. Okay, I can close that. Then we created just some sort of fun learning videos to help them memorize. This one's about the 39 counties of Washington State. I still have it muted.
These that make up Washington State, located on the west coast of the U.S. Isn't that great? We're the 39 counties that make up Washington State, touching the Pacific Ocean. Let's learn and get our name straight. I am Adams County, established in 1883. A certain county and looking at its name is Kitsap. Kittitas County is a San Juan. My name.
Okay, so that gives you an idea of that one. And then we have more like teacher-related videos that talk maybe are not quite as engaging.
The state of Washington is located in the northwestern part of the United States of America. It is known as the Evergreen State. This nickname comes from its forests located in the western part of the state. There is a lot more to understand geographically about the state of Washington.
Okay, so that's now all of these assignments would be essentially reporting to the teacher when they're completed by the student, what kind of grade they got on the Captivate or on the summaries, and their evaluations. The teacher is going to have to spend a little bit more time on our summaries because of having so many different options for them. However, once again, that's one of the challenges with having only one type of evaluation is that you get confounded results. So a student that may not be as good at reading as another student will do incredibly well evaluating or summarizing their learning in a storyboard. And they would have done horrible on a multiple choice. So by having so many different options built into the summative evaluations and also bringing those out gradually in these formative evaluations, we're able to track the different students' progress. The other nice thing about this is that the students themselves will be able to completely modify, let's see, I think I have this, be able to modify and adjust their preferences as they go throughout the website. So if they find that they really enjoy the gamified summative evaluation, they can click that off, and they can always change it, but it would standardize it for them, and they'd be able to personalize the learning as they go throughout. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to cover that I have on all my presentation notes. I think I've covered it. I'll go ahead and open it up for any questions you might have.
This looks great, Matt. It's a ton of work that you've put together here, and I know you had to scramble at the end to try to recover from losing your access to Google Classroom, but I think you made a great recovery here. One of the things that I'm most excited about this project is that you saw a need and then you created a solution, and I'm a huge proponent of online learning, so this is the perfect way to use online learning for groups of students that don't fall into the traditional track and get this course maybe when it's offered. So I think that's a really great way to use online learning to give those students the opportunity. And one of the interesting things too would be if this is a statewide required course, you could have students from all different high schools taking this at the same time. I think that would be a really interesting experience. And so overall, just great job and great solution for the problem that you found. And I love the integration of all of the different social media and the different tools. I think especially working with a high school population, all this different social media and not just having it there just to say you have it, but you were talking about different ways that students might use it. For example, going to a historic location and taking a picture of it and then sharing it onto the Instagram. So in theory, you know, this Instagram is going to be populated by student work and students sharing things that are important to them in Washington State. So just all of that tie-in I thought was really perfect for your audience, and great job.
Thank you. It's funny, you mentioned that I lost the Google Classroom. This actually, the interface with, I wasn't getting my social medias to interface with Google Classroom very well.
Yep.
So by losing Google Classroom, I was forced to do it this way, and it actually turns out to be better because now it'll be a Facebook with their section, and they'll be, I'm able to give them access to it, plus the instructor is able to stay separated, because that's sort of a worry and concern of many instructors. And then and so the instructor works through the Washington State History Facebook, not their own personal one.
Yep.
And then it'll be the same with the Twitter, and then the Instagram will probably stay for the entire population of our students, but the Twitter and the Facebook will be sectioned off to go with the section. And it came about simply because I lost Google Classroom the other day.
Yeah,
so
it's interesting how that happens sometimes. And I think, it's sort of a nightmare to have to rebuild a site in a different platform, but it's also a really valuable experience because you already had it in your mind how you're going to organize the content in one platform, and now you have to make those adjustments, but it can kind of bubble up some different issues like you saw with the social media. So
definitely.
Matt, I had a lot of the same thoughts that Kristen had, which is, the main thing was the idea that this serves the population of students who may be mobile. Maybe they're coming into the state, like you said your daughter was. And this is, it's a big problem for students when they come in to a system where there's something they should have already had and they don't have it yet. And this is it's a great solution. I really liked your attention to the different kinds of evaluation. I haven't seen that before in a student project, and I really appreciated that you sort of took to heart what you were learning in 537 and applied it.
Great class.
Oh, good to hear that. So yeah, I had one thought in your 625 voices, or however many there are there. if the audience is teenagers, it might be that if you found a voice that sounded more like a kid or just had a young person narrated it, it's a little bit more interesting maybe when it's somebody of their own age group who's talking about it. And I loved the part where they can film a video of their tour of, whatever historic site they go to and upload it. And there too, I think if you ask them to narrate it or to caption it, that forces them to think about it and to learn about it a little bit more than just posting a picture that they took. But nice job. It really looks good.
Excellent.
Yeah, I just wanted to say too that of Ruth's point, the last point about having the students create their own little videos, I think, my kids are not quite high school yet, but that's something that would really appeal to them to go out and create their own videos, and that's going to reinforce their learning and then also gives you more content. So then you can start to create sort of a database of all these different tours of different locations. So it's a great model.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, and almost every high schooler has a cell phone, so
yes,
they can very easily take a video, and they certainly are taking pictures. So the one nice thing about that is by incorporating the social media as well as the opportunity to be evaluated on the video audio side is the students are purposefully going out with sometimes their parents, sometimes on their own, and friends, and making these videos to turn into the class, and they're doing it for grade, so they're not always silly, or they're very focused on getting that good grade in the class, and they want to produce a decent video for it. So yep.
Very cool.
It's not being used yet, but they're talking to me about it, so we'll see if they want to use it.
Keep pushing it, because I think it's a a great concept.
Yeah. And Matt, you have a bunch of comments in the chat also. You should have
chat.
Yeah.
So how do I bring the chat back up?
Surrender. If you surrender your control of the share, I think it's at the top, or it's at the bottom. I don't know. I can't ever remember.
I don't know where my screen went to. There it is. All I can see is the column on the right.
With our pictures.
With our pictures.
If you bring
here it is.
The mouse
Stop
down
share.
to the bottom, sometimes it'll pop. Yeah, and then there should be a little chat button too.
Okay, should I remove Control Stop Share and then do chat?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. So should I just answer those questions in the chat?
Yeah, I think there were it's mostly comments, but I think there was a technology question. But I think since we're getting late, I'm going to move to Amanda, unless you have any final comments. Thank you so much, Matt. All right, Amanda, you are up when you're ready.